numbers no matter what stage of business you're in. This podcast will help you do just that. Learn about doing your bookkeeping yourself, outsourcing your bookkeeping successfully to a professional, and understanding your numbers and the story they're telling. We can avoid the overwhelm and continue creating a business we love to run. Welcome back to the podcast. If you are new here, my name is Lydia Miller and I am the host of this podcast. I own a company in Pensacola, Florida, where my goal is to help business owners understand the numbers in their business, the financial numbers, how it affects their business, and how they can increase their profit. That is my goal. And on this podcast, I typically like to talk about ways that you can DIY your bookkeeping. So how you can do it yourself, how you can outsource your bookkeeping, how you can understand your bookkeeping, and how you can know your numbers. That's kind of what I like to cover in this podcast. But for the next couple weeks, I want to talk about something a little bit different, but I still think it's going to be really, really helpful. As I was looking at the analytics for my podcast for last year, I did a few episodes about PowerSheets and how I'm using them, and those are my top listened to episodes. So I think you guys really want to hear about just the goal setting process I'm using in my business and different things, amongst other things. So I wanted to give you guys a 2-part mini micro series, I guess, on PowerSheets. So there will be an episode this week and an episode next week. And then after that, I'll dive into a new season for the podcast or a new series for the podcast in February of 2020. So let's start talking about PowerSheets. If you've never heard of PowerSheets before, it is a goal planner by the company Cultivate What Matters. And I was introduced to the company Cultivate What Matters probably 3 or 4 years ago, at least. Yeah, I think probably 3 or 4 years ago. I found them through Emily Lay because her and Laura Casey were doing things together. Emily Lay owns the company Simplified, and I've been using her planners for a really long time. And then I found Laura through her. So, and they're both from where I live, which is funny. So Emily Lay lives here in Pensacola where I live, and Laura Casey's from Gulf Breeze, which is just across the bridge. You drive through Gulf Breeze to get to Pensacola Beach if you're not local to Pensacola. So she's from that area. So I always thought that was kind of interesting that these two entrepreneurs, were just from the area that I lived. I thought that was really interesting. So PowerSheets, I started using them I ordered my first set of PowerSheets, the 6-month undated version, I believe in 2017, and I didn't use them. I ordered them in a moment of, how am I going to get all this done? I kind of looked at it as a glorified checklist, really, just one more thing, but I already had a planner. I already had some of their systems in place, so I really didn't use it. I skipped through all the prep work. And I think one month I just kind of wrote down, I want to get this done, and this done. And it was just one more place I could check things off my list because if you're like me, you write things down so you can check them off and feel good. And so I really didn't use them. And then in the fall of 2018, I decided that I was going to use PowerSheets. I was going to use them the right way. A lot of people were talking about the success that they had. And I started realizing then too that it's just a slow growth process. You're not going to hit your goals tomorrow. You're not, if you start today, you're not going to hit every single goal tomorrow. It's a slow process. And I needed something to slow me down and remind me of the progress that I was making. And so in the fall of 2018, I ordered my set for 2019. And as I was ordering them, I saw on social media that one of my best friends, Shayla, also was ordering them to use for her business. And I messaged her. I was like, hey, we should meet once a week via FaceTime and talk about our goals. And we did. We did that all through 2019 together. And that was fantastic. And I've ordered my new set for 2020. We haven't gotten to meet yet because we both had babies in the fall. She had her baby in October. I had mine in November. So we're, kind of slow getting back into the swing of things. It's only January after all. And I just want to talk to you guys today about the PowerSheets prep process and how I did that for my business and my personal life together, and how I really analyzed both to figure out what were the pain points and where I was stuck and where I needed to move forward. Okay, so let me look at my notes here. Okay, Okay, so before I ordered my PowerSheets for this past year, so before I ordered my 2020 PowerSheets, I had been analyzing my business for a good, I would say 3 to 6 months at least, to figure out what was going wrong, why I wasn't hitting my goals, why revenue wasn't where I thought it was going to be, where my profit wasn't where it's going to be. A lot of the things that I teach you guys how to do, I was doing that for my own business. And I had already come up with a strategy before I even ordered my Power Sheets in October for this year. And the best thing about the Power Sheets is that it helped me put all of that on paper, and it helped me put all of that plus more down, because it asked more prompting questions as well. And so that's one of the reasons why I really like the prep work part of it. So let me go through a little bit of the format for the planner for you guys who aren't familiar with it. I think that'll be really helpful first. So you first start with 2020 goal ideas, and I already had my word of the year at that point, and you just do like a huge brain dump, which for me is really, really helpful. So you just write down all the things you're thinking about, and then you go through and you just, it talks about, the wonderful you talk about yourself a little bit, which sounds kind of selfish. And then there's a lot of literature in here that Laura's written about her goal setting process and about things that you need to think about, like what fires you up, what are you passionate about, like why do you want to do this? You don't want to be miserable, so what is it that you really love to do? And then you start to just evaluate different parts of your life and to think about things very specifically, like how is your health? How is your relationship with your friends and your family and work and just different areas of your life? And you kind of rate them and you think about, okay, how can I do better? Why is this not working? And you just write all that out. And then you work through some more information. I don't want to talk about all of it, but you talk about things that you're fearful of, and you talk about, challenges in your life and how you're grateful, and you go through all this prep work. There's probably, just the prep work alone is 30 pages. So you go through 30 pages of really deep personal work of who do you want to be whenever you're 80 years old? What do you want to be remembered for? And what are you doing today to be remembered for that? It's really eye-opening when you haven't been living intentionally and when you haven't been using your time well, to realize, oh my gosh, you have, 80, 90 years on earth, and for most of us in our 20s, we're thinking, oh, well, that's a long time away. But really, a lot of things you do now are what people will remember you for. And we're not promised tomorrow anyway. So you want to be living the way that you intend to be remembered by. That got kind of deep, but so then you just looked at your year. Like, what do you want your year to look like? What would be a great year for you? It doesn't have to be perfect, but what would be a great year? What are you saying no to? And then you choose your word of the year. And then episode next week, I'll talk more about my word of the year, and how I came to it and how I'm letting that influence my business. Okay, so after that, you go through more prep work and you just talk about like your best year, and then you get to your goals. And so after you get to your goals, you go through and you choose the best ones and you choose the ones you can really do. And then you break it down into 8. And actually this year, I only have 6 goals. I have 3 personal goals and I have 3 business goals. And so you just break those things down and you, write out the goals, and then it gives you instructions on how to do the action plan worksheet. So basically you take your big goal and you break it down into smaller goals and into deadlines and into like ways you can take action. And so you do that on each of your goals, and then you start with your prep work for the month. So for January, you have, tabs for every single month, and you go through and you write things that are important, things you're excited for, what's on your mind, things you're hopeful for. There is an actual calendar in here this year, which is helpful for a lot of people. I know that. And then you get to your tending list, and the tending list is what they have, tending list Tuesday for. Basically, at the beginning of the month, you write down monthly goals, weekly goals, and then daily action items that you're trying to cultivate. And you write them out, and there's little progress bars on the side. So every week you can fill in like, oh, I did that, and oh, I finished that. That was really motivating for me last year because I could like fill in something. And they also have these stickers that you can put on there that say I made progress, and you can put them on to like show that you've made progress, which is really fun. So I've been doing that. I will say it took me a little bit to get used to the tending list and to not put too much on there, because I would put like these huge tasks that would take like forever and ever long. It would never actually be finished. So I can never actually fill them in. So I've definitely learned to put like smaller goals instead of just podcasts. I put in the episodes that I'm trying to record, and I put in, make a plan or like make the post and things like that for social media and things instead of just social media. I've learned to be a lot more specific with what I want to do and to not have too many on there. I probably put way too many for January on here, but I think that's just a season of life I'm in right now with a new baby. She turned 8 weeks old yesterday, and just learning how to take care of her during the day and to work and nap time and putting her down, just all of that is still very, very new. So, she was 4 to 8 weeks this past month. So, but it's getting a little bit better. I will say that. If you're expecting it, it gets a lot better. Okay. So let's go through a few of my things for the PowerSheets Prep. And then next week, we'll talk more about word of the year and things like that. Okay. So, the biggest change this year is I actually did the prep work. After looking back at my 2019 PowerSheets, I realized that I skipped the prep, which I think it's okay because last year my goal in business was just to figure out what I wanted to do. But I also think it was a mistake to not slow down and figure out a few things that were in my head and that were really rolling around. I am a quick start, so after I decided what I want to do, I just go for it, and I have to make myself slow down and think through things sometimes, which the PowerSheets really help me do that if I actually like sit down and write it all out. Also, last year I started by having 2 sets, one for personal and one for business, and that was too overwhelming. This year I cut it down to 1, and I listed out all of my ideas in 1 goal planner instead of in 2, and I even have fewer goals. So last year they had space for 10 goals, and I felt like I need to fill in 10 goals. Like I have to hit 10 in each. So that was like 20 main goals, which is ridiculous. Like there's no way I was going to reach those. This year I have 6 total goals, and it's a lot more manageable for sure. I still have so many goal ideas, 29 just listed on my paper, and there's more in my head. So this doesn't mean that you won't have all the ideas. It just means that you have a better way to narrow them down. Listing them out is just so freeing for my brain. I do this constantly anyway. Anytime I have an idea, I write it on a 3x5 card and I will drop it in my Sunday basket, or I'll text it to myself. I text myself things a lot now because if I'm holding Kezia, it's hard to like grab a 3x5 card. It's easier to just text it to myself, especially voice to text. But that's how I kind of keep track of my ideas, and it helps empty out my brain as well. I love the part that asked you what worked in the last year and what didn't work in the last year, because looking back over 2019 and continuing to analyze and write out my thoughts, a lot more things worked than I thought that they did. The PowerSheets are also really helpful because I have been able to look back at 2019 and realize where I was last January and the things that I was working on. And it's just such a distant memory now because now I'm like, oh yeah, I did take care of that, and I did work through that last year, and that was really difficult, and I'm way ahead now because I did that. So it's really helpful to be able to look back when you're discouraged and to realize, oh, you're a lot further ahead than you thought. Like it's not so bad. So using these PowerSheets is where a lot of strategy for the new year came in. So after figuring out what wasn't working, I decided if it was worth fixing or not. So business growth, for example, is one. I want my business to grow more in 2020 than it did in 2019. And I had to figure out what wasn't working, what was holding me back. So I was able to look back through my PowerSheets and to pick out things like that I was doing and to decide like, am I spending my time well on that? And is that working or not? And even just looking at my business, I just really dug into like what the goal was, where I wanted to be, and I would write that out. And then I had to figure out, okay, if I'm here, how do I get there? And the PowerSheets really helped me, write out a plan to do that as well. So, for example, in 2019, I was figuring out how I best worked with people, and I tried creating courses and webinars and printables and client work and, and one-on-one work and so on. And what I found was I don't want to make a course. Like I know that that's kind of like the holy grail of people who have online businesses is to just create a course. But I found that I would rather work one-on-one with people. I would much rather talk with them, find their pain points, help them come to a solution, create a relationship with them, and, teach them, and not have to just create one course that hopefully will fit everybody. But I would much rather work individually and have a high touch, very customized business for my clients, and to have fewer clients with a greater impact. So using the PowerSheets, it helped me realize that, because as I was going through them, I realized as well last year that I was rewriting, finish this course, write that course, finish this, and I was just dragging my feet on it. It was so hard. But anytime I had one-on-one client work, I would get on it right away, and I would be so excited to work with them and talk with them. And when I would get off the phone, I had such a personal sense of accomplishment, and that really fired me up and filled me up, because I realized I helped that person, and I know where they're at. I know what to follow up with them on. I know how I can help them. And with the course, I just felt like, okay, so if I sell this course to you, I'm still not getting your feedback. I'm still not hearing that aha moment and knowing how I can help you. So that was one of the things that I used my PowerSheets for in 2019 that really helped me analyze my business for 2020. So as you're using your PowerSheets, you need to realize that there will still be trial and error in 2020, trying to figure out the best packages and the best way to serve people and to work one-on-one with people. But I was able to still narrow down from, just figuring it out in January 2019 to now in January 2020, knowing these are the things I'm going to work on this year, these very specific ways. This is how I'm going to work with people. And by the end of 2020, this is what I want to know in my business. These are the things that I want to know about. And that has been really, really helpful, because the PowerSheets also helped me slow down and realize okay, so I learned this major chunk last year, and this year I'm going to just work on customers, and I'm just going to work on, connecting with my ideal customer and understanding them and helping them and serving them, and just knowing exactly how to get them from not knowing their numbers and being disorganized to being organized, knowing their numbers, having a system set up, or hiring a bookkeeper as fast as possible so that they can get back to work that they love to do. So just learning that process and learning about that customer is my entire goal for 2020. That is part of next week's episode, but there's a preview for you. Another lesson with PowerSheets that I learned in 2019 was to work far, far, far in advance. One thing that was able to keep me going was batch recording podcasts, and to focus my content on my audience and on the series for the podcast instead of in a single episode. And consistency is key, and how I'm being consistent using my PowerSheets and working as far in advance as possible and scheduling posts out. That also goes with my She Knows Her Number series that I have on Wednesdays on the blog, basically where I feature an entrepreneur who knows the numbers in her business and what she's doing to understand those numbers, what accounting system she uses. Does she have a bookkeeper? Does she do it herself? Just all those questions I kind of wonder about people too, of how are you understanding your numbers and what are you doing? So I just asked them, and I put it on a blog post. So learning to work far in advance has helped keep the stress levels down for me, for sure. So that was part one of this 2-part series, basically just about how I analyze my business, how I'm using my PowerSheets, different things that I use them for, and really just how I use the prep work in my business and in my life. So those were, let me flip back. I'll share with you guys my big 3 goals that I have this year and a few of the things around them. So I have 3 business and 3 personal goals. So for the 3 personal goals, the one word I used was money, family, and Bible study. And for my business, the 3 words that I might actually change up a little bit after working a little bit more this last month. 1 is visibility, 2 is one-on-one coaching, and 3 are the understanding worksheets. And I think I might change this up a little bit. I think I might change visibility to just ideal customers. And I'll talk about that in a second. So for money, for us, for the personal goals, it's just a matter of saving more and being more intentional with saving. So one of the things I did was my husband gets paid every single Wednesday, consistently. And I set up an automatic withdrawal to savings. So every single Wednesday, we have a certain amount move into our savings for taxes, retirement, property taxes, since we have to pay all of those. And I just set that up. So it's a lot easier now when I open up my bank account, because honestly, I know I'm an accountant, but I do not remember to make bank transfers every single week. I don't have time for that. If it can be automated, please automate that. So every single Wednesday now, our tithe comes out automatically, our savings moves over, and it just builds week by week by week. Another is just, saving more and looking at areas that, things that just cost a lot of money, just putting money aside for those. Savings is the biggest thing, and just living on less. We're really bad about eating out. I mean, we just spent a ridiculous amount of money on convenience, because sometimes I'm just too lazy to cook or whatever. So that's one of the big things this year, is actually meal planning, preparing, and making meals that we actually want to eat, instead of making a sad salad at the house. That's what I called salads, sad salads. Actually making food that we want to eat at the house and then having it here, to save money. And because when you look at how much you spend on fast food in here, it's ridiculous. And when you realize you're paying $8 because you can't make a meal that tastes just as good, because you're too lazy to do it, it's ridiculous. The second goal was just family, and that's mainly just, Kezia, she's going through her first year of life this year, and just all the things that we want to do with her, and just, babies just take a lot of work. So just making sure that she's hitting all of her milestones, making sure that we're taking care of her, learning about us as parents, reading parenting books, finding out what we want to do for our family, and how we want to cultivate a home that our kids love to be at, and how we can raise them and point them to the Lord, and just all those things. That's a huge goal for this next year. And the last one is Bible study. So every Tuesday night and then Sunday morning, I teach a Bible study at my church, which I love doing. And as I was looking at the big blocks in my life last year, that's one of the things that I really wanted to stay, and that I really wanted to grow at our church, and how I connect with other people at our church, and it keeps me accountable to actually do my Bible study. And so I have some goals, connecting with women. I've realized for Bible study, and in a lot of areas of life, people want to have a personal invitation to things. So I'm trying to be more conscious about when I talk to somebody at church, whenever I see someone, to personally invite them to Bible study, and to answer questions and to get them involved, especially people who I know aren't connected anywhere else. Because this is where I felt connection, and where I got involved, and where I started wanting to learn more. So I know that's really important. So I have a couple different ways I want to do that. And then for my business, the first one was visibility, but I think I just want to use, instead of the word visibility, I would much rather use just getting to know my ideal client. That's one of my main goals this year, is to just learn everything I can about my ideal client. One of those ways is through the blog series, another is through this podcast, and another is through coffee dates and networking. So and coffee dates are just either virtual, where we meet via Zoom. And I would love to do that with you if you own a business and you just want to just chat about life and everything. That'd be really fun. I'm actually meeting someone in a couple hours this morning, and we're going to just, chat about our businesses and everything, but just getting to know people and just really connecting with them. The next is the one-on-one coaching, and that is going to happen starting through my beta group that's happening this spring, where I'll meet with a group of ladies and figure out where they're at, how I can help them get to their goal of having streamlined financials and everything set up and everything organized, and for them to not worry about it, how I can get them there as fast as possible. And just the one-on-one coaching, I also have just a coaching package, and if you have, bookkeeping questions, things like that. So just really cultivating that and finding out how I can give the most value and how I can give you results the very fastest possible. And then the last goal are the Know Your Numbers worksheets that I'm creating. So I do have those pretty well sketched out, and I'm just working on refining them, and I'm using them in the beta group to help people really understand their numbers, and to find out the best way to package those and the best way to get those to you guys. If you're interested in that, please reach out, because I'm adding people to the beta group that it's going to start. It'll start in February, then I'll add people again in the beginning of March, beginning of April, all the way through the end of the year, until I really feel like we have a great system down. And so if you're interested, definitely reach out to me for that. So that was my PowerSheets prep that I did this past year. So if you are interested in PowerSheets, I know that the 2020 full-on version is sold out, but they do have the 6-month undated versions available that you can buy. And I have just found that even in this digital world, I needed something to physically write down my goals on. And like I said, I'm developing the Know Your Numbers worksheets that you can write down information about your finances, where you're at. You can figure out what you want to do, how you can get there. And if you're interested in pre-ordering those, or if you're interested in being a part of the beta group to test those out, I would love to hear from you. You can email me, lydia@dacbalance.com, and I can get you on the list for sure. But until then, just know that if you are struggling with your goals in your business, if you're struggling with knowing what to do, it's not going to happen overnight. Like, it took me a full year to go from being a bookkeeper to understanding what I want my business to look like in the future, with my accounting degree, with my MBA, how I can use that, what the pain points are. And I'm still using another year to develop those ideas, to figure out exactly what I want to do, because I want to have the best possible product to offer people that they really need. So it's not going to happen overnight. Don't worry about that. Just make little by little progress and let things grow slowly, and it'll be totally worth it in the end. So I would be honored to work with you. If you have any questions about your bookkeeping or your systems in your business, and you need help understanding your financial statements, I would love to help you. To get started, you can email me, lydia@dacbalance.com. And with the problem that you're having, we can do about a 15-minute phone call, and I'll find the best way that I can support you. And I would love to connect with you outside of the podcast. You can find me on Instagram at lydia.miller.mba, and always by email, lydia@dacbalance.com. So until next time, go and make it happen.